I was a 35 years old married woman with a 9-year-old son. I had a few qualifications, a Bachelor of Arts, a Bachelor of Laws, and a diploma in computer applications. I was a partner in a firm trading in electronic safety devices, and my husband had a manufacturing business. Both my husband and I were earning well, and everything seemed okay, except that my mother wasn't keeping well. It all started with an attack of severe backache some 20 years ago. Since then, she suffered from multiple ailments and underwent variety of treatments and surgeries from many specialists without much relief. I had begun to wonder what was going wrong with her health and treatment. I tried to read up on her condition, but I slowly realized that medical science is complex and one needed formal training to understand it. The only way to get it was to get admitted to a medical college. The idea was insane. No one took it seriously except my husband, who knew that I wasn't joking. Quite understandably, he was very strongly against it. We fought for over a month, and I begged him to let me try and fail instead of regretting later. But was it even possible? Getting authentic information proved very challenging. People took time to understand what I was saying and freely gave wrong information and advice. I kept on gathering information and was convinced that it was theoretically possible if I could secure first class in the science subjects in the 12th boards. After much follow up with the dean of the government medical college, he told me that there was no upper age limit mentioned anywhere. He, however, advised me to give up the idea since the course was very tough, even for young students who have no other responsibilities. Private colleges flatly refused to consider me and even refused appointments for a meeting. My mother had earlier showed me an advertisement featuring this medical college starting in Wadia Hospital, which was right opposite my office. I got an appointment with the CEO of this international collaboration. He was taken aback that I wanted to study medicine at this age, but promised to consider my application once I passed my 12th boards. Now, when I inquired in the office of Maharashtra Board of Secondary and Higher Secondary Education, I was told that I could not appear for 12th again since I had already passed the examination long back in the art stream. My husband was overjoyed since it seemed like the end of the road for that insane idea. But the thought just wouldn't leave me. I went back to meet the director of the board after a few weeks and found out that it was indeed possible to appear for the science subjects under some special provision. He told me that since I wished to take science subjects, I would have to get admitted to a junior college for the lab examinations. I went back to my junior college, but they had never received such a strange request. I was flatly refused admission. I had to approach the principal even to procure a no objection certificate, which was necessary to get admission in another college. I knew this was going to be next to impossible. I also expected the negative response because the idea itself was new for everyone concerned. I decided to calmly try my best until it proved impossible to continue, since the urge to know just wouldn't go away. I had heard about a junior college starting in my school. I decided to try there. Luckily, the office staff in my school were aware about this special provision. I got admitted to the junior college. On my first day at the college, the students thought that I was their teacher and were quite amused to find out that I was also a student like them. A shock hit me when just a few days before my board examination, my mother gave up and passed away. The very person for whom I had returned to college was no more. I was devastated. I had struggled through the year with studies, work, family responsibilities. So my husband encouraged me to appear for the board exams anyway and decide the next course of action later. Maybe he thought it would take my mind off the grief. While mourning the loss, I slowly realized that the curiosity to know what the doctors know and do not know only got stronger, and I just had to study medicine. After passing the boards, I went back to Arya Hospital. They told me that they were upgrading the hospital, and if the hospital obtains necessary permissions by the time I finished my preclinical studies, I would be able to complete the entire course right in my hometown. I thought this was a stroke of luck. I decided to spend my entire savings on this insanity. What could happen at the worst? I wouldn't be able to complete the course and would have exhausted all my savings by then. But then I was young and confident enough that I could spring back and stand on my feet again. The curiosity just wouldn't let me rest in my cozy life. For foreign medical education, there is a set of formalities. One of them was procuring an eligibility certificate. It turned out to be another hurdle for me since officials at Delhi didn't understand my case of taking 12th examination twice. Luckily, my husband was visiting Delhi for his work and could go and explain to them so that my application could be processed. And finally, the journey of medical studies started. My sense of humor helped me get along with my young peers. They accepted me as one amongst them in no time, and we had a lot of fun together. Studying medicine opened another wonderful world to me, the world inside a living body. There's really a whole universe inside a living body. A human being is said to be made up of more than 35 trillion cells. For a person to live and thrive, so many intelligent cells have to coexist, cooperate, coordinate. In short, they have to live in harmony with each other and the environment. Each of these cells has defined function and it performs that function with integrity. When you say, I am so and so, you're actually talking about this colony of trillions of intelligent living cells living in harmony with each other. There are astounding networks, communication channels, and regulating mechanisms for these trillions of cells to communicate and work in unison as you. However, occasionally something goes wrong and the harmony is disturbed. When your own cells start attacking your other cells, you develop and suffer what is called an autoimmune disease. For example, rheumatoid arthritis. I couldn't help but draw parallels between a person and a society. As long as most individuals or groups of individuals coexist, cooperate, and do their jobs fairly well, society seems to function smoothly. But if they start fighting each other, the peace and harmony gets disturbed and it becomes a dysfunctional society. Also, each cell of the human body has a life cycle similar to living organisms. It also grows, replicates itself, and dies. There are complicated mechanisms to balance proliferation of cells and cell deaths. When an error occurs in these mechanisms, some cells start to divide uncontrollably. They divide rapidly and form what is called a tumor. If it has the ability to spread to distant locations or invade other tissues, it is called cancer. Cancer cells not only divide uncontrollably, they use up body's energy reserves, causing death of other cells, leading to death of the human being. In short, the survival of the human being, as far as the internal environment is concerned, depends not on each cell trying to compete, fight, and win, but harmonious coexistence of all the living cells. I couldn't help but wonder if the human race is becoming the cancer of the living planet. Human race seems to be proliferating uncontrollably and using up finite resources of the planet. It has also invaded and altered the habitat of all other species. Human population growth and profligate consumption are believed to be the main drivers of climate change and ongoing mass extinction. Anyway, I was enjoying studying the medical subjects and getting exhausted running between office, home, and college. By the time I completed my first year, the hospital could not obtain the necessary recognition from the medical council, and we were told that we would have to go to Philippines to complete the clinical rotations after the second year. It meant being away from my family for more than 2 years, especially being away from my school going son. By the time I finished preclinical subjects, my son was already 13. Still, going away for more than 2 years looked very difficult. I decided to retire from business and made the necessary arrangements. I started training the house helps with a view to prepare them to work in my absence. I urged my husband to understand the basics of cooking so he could provide groceries. We also decided to hire a driver so my husband would have an additional hand. As for how I was going to cope, I just braced myself and decided to play it by the ear. I didn't even know where this country called Philippines was located on the map. I had to now go to another unknown land and stay in a hostel with other young students. It's not easy to break out of your comfort zone. I just opened up my heart for all the new experiences and decided to take one day at a time. Studies were the least of my worries. Being a vegetarian, surviving in the city of Angeles proved challenging. I remember we would wait for Wednesdays because there was a langar at the Gurudwara we located in town. I would go for a walk in the evenings, but the smell of burning fat from the roadside eateries would make me sick. On one of my walks, I luckily found a tennis court and approached a lady playing there. That lady turned into a lifelong friend and helped me a lot during my stay. She, along with our other friend, visited India for my son's wedding in 2018. Medicine is a postgraduate course in Philippines, just like the USA. So apart from passing in their national medical admission test, we were required to take some additional courses. That meant extending my stay. I approached the dean and told him that I was already a postgraduate, even though my peers were undergraduates. And then I got an exemption from the additional courses on submission of authenticated degrees. Even though the study schedule was hectic, the weekends were free in the first year after going to the Philippines. I found a flying school near Clark Air Base, which was half an hour's drive from my hostel. Philippines is an archipelago made up of 7,641 islands. Many small aircrafts are needed and there are many flying schools. I thought this was a great opportunity to use my free weekends and learn flying. I was thrilled to learn about making flight plans, learning about radio communication, navigation, and many other subjects. I encountered extremely turbulent weather on one of my solo flights and thought that my life was over. Black clouds surrounding my plane. As I was flying over a town, I couldn't go below the prescribed altitude. Suddenly, two clouds parted and made a way for me. I went through the opening and asked for help from the control tower. To go through the opening, I had to change my heading and had lost my way. I couldn't tell the tower my position. I kept going and finally found a familiar landmark. I could then tell the tower my position and could return to the base with the help of the control tower. During another takeoff, a goat crossed my runway, and on yet another flight, a side door opened when I was in the air. After I finished the requisite hours of flying, I had to go to Manila for the theory exams for the private pilot license. Since I had never landed on Manila airport, I asked my instructor if we could fly to Manila and return after my exams. He agreed, but again, due to bad weather, the Manila Air Traffic Control denied us the permission to land there. My instructor landed the plane at the nearby small airport and asked me to take the bus to reach Manila. I got into the full bus, but my examination center was quite far from the bus terminal. I then hired a cycle rickshaw to reach there, but that guy couldn't understand my instructions properly and took me elsewhere. It took me quite some time to reach the examination center, and this delay costed me my scheduled exam slot. All these unexpected detours messed up my plans and anticipated return to my university. My instructor had to fly back without me. I was luckily allowed to take my exams in the afternoon slot. It was a long and hard day. I called the dean to inform I couldn't attend the afternoon seminar in the university, but he was so proud that I was getting a pilot's license that he excused me. I cleared the exams and finally got my private pilot license just before the start of the final year. The final year of medical school consisted of 365 days of hospital duties without a day off and a 36-hour duty every third day. It was quite exhausting, but it was the real learning experience. It was so hectic that there was no time to think. All we did was sleep whenever we were off duty. I put up a calendar on my wall beside my bed and struck off one day at a time. It was great to come back to my son and husband with a medical degree. After spending so much time alone, I was wondering how it would feel. I couldn't wait to be home. I was so exhausted, I just slept off the first 2 weeks. Then slowly, things became just as they were before. After coming back, I had to prepare for the screening test for foreign medical graduates that is held in Delhi by the National Board of Examinations. I passed that in the first attempt. After passing the exam, you get a provisional registration with the medical council to start your internship, which I completed in Pune itself. After finishing the internship, I again got stuck in the bureaucratic muddle due to confusion created my two 12th board mark sheets. They had sent all the mark sheets to respective institutions for verification, and mine was stuck at the Maharashtra State Board. After a visit to Delhi and with some timely help from a kind soul, I finally got the registration to do medical practice in India. The ICU head in the hospital where I did my internship asked me if I could join her as a research associate as I had experience of handling data. I jumped at the opportunity. I was lucky to get the chance to collect data, do research, and clinical work all at the same time. Data fascinates me, and that's why I joined Algo Analytics as a domain consultant in 2017. Algo Analytics is a data science company, and this work definitely recruits most of my faculties developed so far. While practicing as a doctor, I realized that there was something wrong with the food we are eating. We are not getting enough nutrition even though we eat enough. The impact of our lifestyle and diet on our health is tremendous. The pollution we create in the cities through our use of detergents and cosmetics, along with the pesticide use in farming, are coming back to us through our food. How the food is produced is also important. Our health also depends on our interaction with the environment. We cannot isolate ourselves and be healthy. This has prompted me to experiment with regenerative farming. I have now planted more than 1,000 trees on a farm and waiting for them to grow. One thing you need in agriculture is patience. Also, before you can become a doctor, you need to learn to be patient. My son has now grown up, and I have a wonderful daughter in law. Life is good. I have enjoyed my journey so far, and I'm curious about where it will lead me next. What did I learn from my journey? I earned my medical degree at the age of 42. It's been 13 years since I came back with a medical degree from the Philippines. Looking back, I realized that one small step at a time, hard work and a bit of luck, something that seemed impossible was achieved. I remember that as a child, my parents encouraged me to participate in anything that interested me without thinking about winning or losing. I have tried so many things as a result and picked up quite a few things pretty fast. Cooking, knitting, horse riding, swimming, tennis, music, and enjoy each one of them. I realized that proficiency in seemingly unrelated skills somehow enhances our overall performance. Probably because different faculties get developed while doing different things. Also, when you're focused on doing things well rather than winning, you are more likely to enjoy them, and then appreciation, prizes, recognition, all those things become secondary. Life is a gift we have received to embark on a journey of experiences. Achievements and failures are just some of these experiences we encounter on that journey. It's never too late to experience the joy of doing or learning something new. I also see that everything is interconnected, so you cannot harm the other without harming yourself. I wish you all the very best in your individual journey.